So this is how I tested my prime number code. The first thing you're going to want to do is find a list of prime numbers up to some number that you're going to want to use. So thankfully, over at the University of Arizona, I guess, they have a list of 50,000 prime numbers. So we're just going to take over from their hard work and just copy it. Now that we have a list of prime numbers, we're going to put all that in a file. And we'll just call this file something easy. It's called hello. In case any of you didn't know how to copy and paste in Terminal, all you have to do is hold Control-Shift-V. There we go. After that, we can go ahead and just get rid of this thing on the bottom. Press double D to get rid of a line. Hold Control and Home to get to the top. Double D gets rid of a line, double D gets rid of a line. Now we're going to also want to get rid of all these spaces from the first number. Now that we have a good list of prime numbers, we're going to want to truncate everything into one specific... Sorry, that should be a tab. Into one small area. Then we want to do this to hello, output it to something called TF for test file. Now if we press enter... Oh, I think I got these backwards. There we go. Now if we press list, we have TF, we can vim TF, see what it looks like. I messed up. We're going to be pointing, rather, hello to this command and having it output to a different file that we'll call TF. Vim TF. There we go. Everything's on its own separate line, which is going to make this a lot easier. And you can even see that we do in fact have 50,000 primes by hitting Control End and seeing that we have 6 or 50,000 down here. The next thing is to show you an example of how you would set up an automatic input-output system in C. So this example might be very familiar to you, except for perhaps this thing right up here and this command down here. This is the standard library. It works just as similarly as the standard input-output. You just include it, and it comes with a function called A2I, which is going to take a char array and output an integer that is equivalent. So basically, it can take a series of numbers and convert it into an integer. This is going to be important for us to test values that are passed into the program. The next thing that we need to do is set up a bash script that will be able to take a series of inputs and let us check the outputs. But before we do that, I want to talk about another program, grep. So what grep does is it compares strings between two files, or an output in a file, or just something you wrote down in a file. So if I wanted to check, for example, if TF has a 7 in it. It does. It has lots of 7s, actually. So we can't use grep just directly, because obviously, you know, there's plenty of prime numbers that have a 7, and we just want to see if 7 is prime. So what we can do is we can pass regular expressions. The caret checks if it's a number that is on its own, or it's the start of a line. And the $sign checks if there's nothing else outside of 7. And then before we do that, we have to add -E, which adds in the extended registry, so regular expressions. And boom, we only have a 7, and an 11, and a 13. Bash scripting is a little bit different from the C syntax, so I won't spend too much time trying to explain the differences. But we'll just make a tst.sh. It's going to have a for loop, so for I in the range of 1 to 5,000, we will do this until it's done. We're going to create a variable, and that variable will contain the output of what happens when you type in P5 and pass the index of the for loop to it. And then we're going to add grep functionality. Beginning of line doesn't match up with variable till the end of line. And with bash, you'll have to end a assumed line with a semicolon, and then add the then for the if statement. And if it's not in there, say var is not a prime, and fi to end the if statement. So what this if statement does is it says if grep-e beginning of line has the string var until the end of line, then do this. But only if it's not the case. That's what this exclamation point is doing. If not grep-e var, then echo var is not a prime. Now we have everything we need to test whether or not the program is working. So I already have my P5 compiled, so all you need to do to run the bash script is hit bash tst.sh, and now it should count all of the numbers from the first prime number to the 5,000th prime number. And this will take just a minute. And it's done. And to actually test that it works, we can replace this with .a, which isn't going to print prime numbers, it's just going to print whatever number came into it. So now if we test it again, so now if we test it again, we do get some prime numbers, but all these other numbers, they ain't prime. Is 4999 prime? Oh, yeah, it is. And now you know how to test your programs against a large list of numbers.